This is the J&R Sports Lounge. No scripts, no filters, just straight sports talk. Episode 1 starts right now. This is the co-host Randy. I am the other co-host Joe. Let's get right into it.
All right, bro. Let's do it.
Let's discuss first baseman for the 2026 MLB season.
Do it.
Let's start with your number one on your list for your top 10 first baseman for this season.
Okay. Well, at the top, I think a lot of people kind of have the same general name, same top two names. I would say maybe three deep, but a lot of people do tiers and such, and I think these first couple would be within a tier, two or three. If you went back to last year, it'd be a very big surprise to think that this guy was on the top of any list. He's on the top of my list this year, but I'm not alone. I think a lot of people fell in love with him last year.
Big suspense here.
He was a rookie last year.
Oh
for
man!
those in fantasy
Wow,
baseball.
number one, really?
Yeah. But he plays in a small park, and his name is Nick Kurtz. He hit for a lot of power last year. The track record has been with him in the power department for years. He's a good professional hitter. He's not just a power hitter. You know me, I have a soft spot for the young guys. So when I think about when I think about a lot of my rankings, a lot of times I think who's going to make that next step up, and it's easier to consider that when you talk about a young fella.
So let me ask you this. All right, so you put Nick Kurtz as your number one. What is his plateau, or what is his next step up from this? I mean, he hit 290 last year. He had 36 home runs. He was all world basically at first base. I mean, if you really think about it, statistically, he was the number one or number two fantasy first baseman last year, besides maybe like a Pete Alonso.
Sure.
But what makes you think that he steps up even higher than that? I mean, there's a sophomore slump that might be involved there at some point, right?
Right. And I honestly do think there's going to be a step back in some departments. I don't think he'll hit 290. I think he can hit 270. But I think his power is real. His hit tool is real. He can just crush the ball. He's formidable against lefties and righties, although he is better against lefties. He's the kind of guy that you want to place a bet on. I know we're not talking about that today, but when he's going up against lefties, I mean, he's dynamite. Obviously there's more righties.
Right.
But he can really hold his own. His track record is long. He's got good pedigree.
I have him a little lower on my list specifically, but only because I think that his sophomore slump may come into play. And every player is different, right? So like you can't count on the fact that somebody is going to go through a sophomore slump at some point. But it is a thing that could happen. And I'm not a huge fan specifically of that Oakland, Las Vegas, whatever they want to call themselves lineup. That I'm not a huge fan of that lineup specifically. I know they added Jeff McNeil to that lineup this year. He's not a difference maker for me in protection.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
Like I like Kurtz. I just don't think he's a 290 and 36 home run hitter again for a second straight year.
Okay. I don't think he's a 290 hitter, but a couple things. I think he could be a 40 home run hitter because I think his power is that legit, based on exit velocities and such. But also as far as you touched on like the lineup. I think I'm a big believer in Langoliers, different position. Than what we're discussing today. I'm a big believer in Brent Rooker, outfielder, another position we're not discussing.
Yep.
You got to help me with the other outfielder there. There was a big name going
into Lawrence Butler.
Lawrence Butler. I'm not sure what his status is this year. It's almost like I forgot about him, honestly.
Yeah.
But in general, I think that lineup, especially the immediate protection around him, like the people that would be batting right next to him, I think he is protected enough to see good pitches. And in that ballpark, I think it's in Sacramento, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's like a minor league park.
Yep.
I just think his ceiling is just too high.
Yeah.
And when you compare that with, kind of like the question marks for the rest of the list, for me, there's no like obvious guy that should be up there. Like if we're talking about a different position, there might be like Bobby Witts and Jose Ramirez's and stuff like
So I
that, where
agree
like
with you.
things are full.
I agree with you on the fact that there is no clear cut first baseman who is like the top number one, because so my number one is Freddie Freeman.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because he is just so damn consistent every single year. He's in the middle of one of the greatest lineups we've ever seen in the history of baseball,
Mm,
honestly, or
okay.
at least the best like top four in any lineup we've ever seen in all of Major League history. He's one. I don't want to say he's like the catalyst for that lineup, because Otani obviously does a great job, uh, more than a great job. Mookie does a great job, obviously in there. Teoscar does a great job in there. But no matter where you slide him in that lineup, he has protection, and I'm big on that specifically. And there's a reason why a specific guy in my list, and I will tell you about him in a little bit, why he has is falling significantly in my list. Somebody that I really like, but he's falling significantly in my list because of that reason specifically. But I think Freddie Freeman to me is like a 300 hitter, basically. I mean, maybe his numbers don't add up to exactly 300, but he's a 300 hitter with pretty good power. He's super clutch on a regular basis. He'll get you any type of hit that you need in any moment. He'll get you a single to keep a rally going. He'll get you a double if you need it, and he'll hit you up. He'll get a home run if the rally calls for it. I think he's just like the old. Listen, I am a Mets fan. Like, I fucking hate the Braves. Like, I hate them. And I know he's not a Brave anymore. Obviously, he's on the Dodgers. But um, there's something that he's one of those, like, he's one of those Chipper Jones types of guys where, like, I hated him as a Brave, but I love how professional he is.
You respected him.
I hated Derek Jeter when he played for the Yankees, because again, I'm a Mets fan. Like, I hate guys like Paul O'Neill and Derek Jeter. I hate guys like Shane Victorino from the Phillies, but things like that. But I mean, but I respect their game. And Freddie Freeman is that guy to me. And I think that for me this year, even I know he's getting up in age, but he's my number one. So
Yeah. Well, I see your point. I mean, the man has been so consistent. And when you talk about counting stats, I can't imagine a better lineup in the history of myself playing fantasy baseball. We feel more comfortable with the counting stats that are going to happen in any lineup. I mean, that lineup is deep. You even mentioned Cal Tucker, who's there now,
oh,
all of a
Tucker,
sudden,
jeez,
which
I
is
completely forgot
amazing.
about
I
him.
mean,
I
the
don't know
the,
how.
the length on that lineup is
Yeah,
remarkable, honestly.
yeah.
For
Dude, one through
me,
see if you think about that, 1 through 5 in that lineup that's
it's
historic.
crazy.
Like, that is.
As a Giants fan, I hate it, but
You're right. It does suck for Giants fans, or for literally
anybody else in the
anyone in the
National League.
National League. But like 1 through 5, we'll talk about the Dodgers in a different episode. But I mean, the 1 through 5, that lineup, I completely forgot about Tucker, but he deepens that lineup. Like I said, Teoscar on top of it, I think is a
Mm,
great hitter. Like Max Muncy, Will Smith. I
mm.
mean, dude, like, that's seven guys in the lineup that are just great players.
But what my concern is for
Andy
him,
Pages,
yeah, yeah, who I think is going to have a better year this year than he had last year. I think
yeah,
the whole lineup. There's a couple guys. I think Muncy's going to have a better year. We'll talk about that later too.
yeah,
But for me, it's more like I see the potential for Nick Kurtz to hit 40, and I also see the potential for Freddie Freeman to hit less than 20. And I see
I could see that.
some weeks I see Freddie Freeman being like the ultimate floor guy. Very consistent. We'll flirt with 300. Not too many valleys, some peaks. The valleys are going to be quick because he's such a professional hitter. But and the county stats are going to be there, like we discussed. But I think
I just love the way he swings that bat too. Like, just
it's great. It's great.
his power through the like the middle of the zone. And I know that his bat like dips a little bit.
Okay,
Um, but I just love like the torque on his hips. That
right.
that that sounds weird, but like I love the torque
Mm.
on his hips when he gets around on a fastball.
I mean, it sounds like it's youth versus you know
Hmm.
the veteran type hitter
I mean, yeah,
argument here in some sort of a way because a guy that's he's proven on some level as far as Kurtz, but it's also time for him to show us again that
yeah,
he's legit. Whereas a guy like Freeman, he's been there, done that. He's been at the top of the mountain at first base, I believe. I believe he's been a consensus one at some point. He
yeah,
must have been.
yeah. See,
Whether it's for the Braves or whether it's for the
yeah,
Dodgers or perhaps even both at one point.
yeah. You're right. I mean, our two number ones are like the ultimate opposites, right? Like you have like the young kid that is like the superstar that is bound to, whenever they move to Vegas, like that's a guy to build your team around,
No doubt.
right? And Freddie was a guy to build your team around when the Braves won the championship a while
Right.
ago. And he's, he got a big contract, obviously, and he was still someone to kind of build around. But they brought in Otani to be the other guy to be the ultimate guy to build around.
Hmm.
Um, but we're like the two guys that we have at number one. They're like on opposite ends of the scale.
Yeah, and
Like one could fall off. Freddie could fall off completely and have a really shitty year, and Nick Kurtz could have like a 300 and a 45 home run year, and even better, better than what he had in his
at the
rookie
same
year.
time, since you just made my argument, Freddie Freeman could go ahead and hit 25, 28 home runs, that a little well over 300 because you might even see better pitches to hit somehow because he's almost an afterthought
Yeah,
now. He's like the third, fourth best hitter in that lineup, which is a crazy thought. I mean, I'm talking about like scary hitter, perhaps.
dude,
As far as pure hit tool, he might be the best.
the
But
amount of glaze that we're putting on our number ones is crazy right now. Like, you want to
but
move on to number two?
the ultimate point that I was going to make there is just that they're going to get to their outcomes in totally different ways.
Hmm.
But as far as from a fantasy points perspective, it might differ between roto and head-to-head formats.
Yeah.
But either way, they can literally get to those top spots
Hmm.
in totally different manners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I listen. Like I said, I have Nick Kurtz on my list also, just not at number one. So we'll flip flop. So
Okay.
I'll go next with my number two, and my number two is Vladdy.
Okay.
I I love him. I think he's I was a big fan of his dad. Obviously, I have his jersey.
Oh yeah.
Sitting back here is one of my top five favorite players of all time. Um, there was the only reason why Vladdy wasn't my number one, and what I mentioned before is that like I had a really hard time picking either Freddie or Vladdy as number one and number two,
Mhm.
and the reason why I picked Vladdy second is he played great defense in the playoffs specifically, and I know he got his huge contract in the middle of the season last year, so everything points to the signs that he's going to be, his trajectory is super high, like he's just on the up trajectory. He hit 292 last year, 23 home runs, 84 RBIs, but I think that some of those stats are a little bit low for the money that he gets paid and for being the guy that is the ultimate power hitter in the middle of your lineup. Like I don't he has potential to be better. Obviously, we know that. Like he's hit 30 plus home runs before in his career. This isn't,
Mhm.
but there's something about his numbers that just like dropped off in the last couple of years, and maybe it's to get his batting average a little higher or his OPS a little higher. But something about his power just hasn't translated for me in the last couple of years, and I think that he can make that comeback, but until he shows me that, I can't put him at number one fully. And I know that that's hypocritical for me to say because I literally said the same shit about Nick Hertz just now. That the dude is a 290 hitter with 36 home runs last year and 100 plus RBIs, and I'm not putting him at number one, and I'm not even putting him at number two.
Mhm.
But I think Vladdy has his defense is fantastic. Again, in the World Series specifically last year, his defense basically got the Blue Jays to Game Seven,
Sure.
right? I mean, he made plays down the line that were unbelievable. I mean, they were for a guy his size. Also, I thought that he played super well
Sure.
defensively,
But I mean, that's not really going to help him so much in fantasy too
not
much.
fantasy wise. And I mean, just in overall, like in my opinion, I think he's the overall number two first baseman in all of baseball. Just
Gotcha.
just not just offensively and fantasy wise, but just as a complete player.
Hmm.
I think he's fantastic in that way. So I know Freddie plays a great first base, and his some of his count, like you said, his counting stats are a little bit down. I
Hmm.
think Freddie's in such a great spot in Los Angeles where his numbers can still grow even though he's like on the downslope of his career.
Hmm.
Vladdy's numbers are going to go up because he is also in a good lineup. He's got great players in there, but I don't think he's the one that's going to carry that team specifically. Hit the pitching in Toronto is what's going to carry that
Right.
team. So, all right, who's your number two?
Well, it happens to be Vladdy.
Oh, all right.
But with that, what has me not put him at number one is the concern for the power. I mean, at one point, I didn't think power was going to be concerned at all for this player. I thought that like 70 or 80. power grade, I think, coming into the big leagues. Maybe just 70. I think it's at least that. 880 being the highest.
Mhm.
Um,
Why is that
but
scale like that though?
I'm not
Can it
really
just be a
sure.
0 through 100? Like, why do we have to have a 20 to 80 scale?
I guess they have to have their own little
It makes no
system
fucking
that's
sense, man.
unidentifiable to any other system in the world.
God.
But
All right,
like
whatever.
the fact that a guy that big, who we've seen just kill it in the home run derby before, hasn't he done well in the derby? Hasn't he
Yeah.
won before?
Oh yeah. He did
So
win it one time. Yeah.
with that, I'm just a little bit I'm concerned for the lack of power. He's obviously a great hitter. But with that, we know he's got it in there. So I do believe he's got a very easy, I wouldn't say an easy path, but it's definitely within the realm of potential outcomes for him to be the number one and even possibly a runaway number one player from this list.
Hmm.
Just because he's put it together as far as like the average, he's a good overall player. He's got good players around him in the lineup. He's protected on some level. I think that Park plays pretty well, right?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
So I
yeah.
mean, and there's up and comers in that lineup that I like.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that later, third base. But as far as like a complete hitter, he is. I consider him to be a good overall hitter.
Mhm.
Uh,
He's just very professional at it.
right.
He's just a smart hitter, great power. Like again, I like the way that I like his stance. What I don't like about him is his size. And I know that we're a lot of the things that we take into perspective are fantasy metrics and fantasy numbers. Sometimes I look at like their defense, bless you, only because I look at their defense because I'm looking at the overall player, right? Like I
Sure.
think Freddie is a great defensive first baseman.
Mm,
I think Vladdy has gotten to be a much better defensive first baseman than he was before. And there are players, for example, Pete Alonso has gotten somewhat better, even though
hmm.
he's a
Yeah, he
shitty
has.
first baseman defensively. He's gotten significantly better over the years.
Right.
When he was a rookie, he graded out to be a terrible defensive. He was a negative defensive player, and now he's going to be a good, at least league average first baseman. Um, but there's something about Vladdy's size that I don't like. But there's something about his size and the way he stands in the box with his legs really spread apart and the power that he generates. I really like Vladdy a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I have
yeah,
is my number two. I
yeah,
think most of that is because I think that he's a complete player that can tap into even a next level because I think that power is there. If he just finds the right rhythm, the right approach, or has the
mhm,
right, you know,
yeah,
just kind of changes things up a little bit on some
yeah.
level. I don't know exactly what that is. He might be able to find that groove a little bit more, barrel more balls up.
All right, who do you have at your number three? Since it's your
Um,
turn.
I'm I'm gonna have a big surprise at number three.
Mm-mm.
Um, I think this guy's hyped. I think the hype is real. I think, but I think he's just going to keep getting better. I think that to me, it reminds me of how Salvador Perez just got better and better and better, even though no one really thought he was going to get better and better and better. I know we're not talking about catcher, but I am talking about a catcher. I'm talking about Ben Rice. I think
I knew
Ben
you were gonna say that.
Rice is
Wow,
going to be a
that
star.
that's a huge surprise. You think he's gonna be a star this year?
Yeah, I think this year he's going to be a star. I think by next year we're talking about him in the second round potentially.
Wow,
I think
Ben
he's going to be
Rice.
one heck of a hitter. I mean,
Like, all right, so he's on my list, but he's not in my top 10. I mean, he's not like I have 14 players queued up
I
here.
like that. It means I
He's not
got
in my
to.
top 10 though.
Then I guess we could consider that a hot take by me.
It so okay, so I don't know if we're gonna take this because I'm a Yankee hater,
Sure.
and I put him a little lower in my list. I know that he's a good power hitter. He's a good defensive first baseman. He's in the middle of he's protected by Aaron Judge in the lineup. So like these are the same things I talk about with every player, right?
Hmm.
Protection,
Yeah, it's a big part. You got to
you know,
consider all that.
their defensive prowess. Um, I just don't see him being that great yet. Like I don't know. I feel like I compare him to a guy like Jason Dominguez, from the Yankees, and it's probably not fair for me to compare somebody on their own team to each other. And both of these players have high potential.
Hmm.
I just don't see Ben Rice being the guy that is like so high above guys um like Bryce Harper. Pete Alonso, like those types of guys,
Mhm.
you know.
I think he's going to get the at bats this year. I think he's got a good spot in the lineup. I think his power is more than for real. I think he's got a good hit tool. Um, I just think he's more for real than people are giving him credit for. I think like his savant page is
Mm,
like special looking, like elite all over the
mm.
place.
I'm
I
gonna tell you, he's like not even top. Like he's in my honorable mentions at number 11, which is wow. I'm a little surprised that you put him at number 3 over just some of the guys. Like you're a Giants fan. I'm surprised that you put him over your guy.
Devers.
Yeah.
I think that I mean since I'm a Giants fan, I know about that park. That park has been a killer for many hitters. But honestly, I do have Devers pretty high. I think he's going to do well this
Mm,
year. I think you know there's a lot of players that struggle there. Um, I mean, other than Barry Bonds, even the best players have had a hard time for stretches there, and it can hit your confidence. I don't think he's the kind of guy where the confidence is going to hit him too hard. I think he's proven. I think he's got the right
Jeff Kent was amazing
mentality to
there.
play well. But
Just
yeah,
kidding.
he was
No, fuck him.
for a while. But as far as Ben Rice, I just think that he's just so solid. He kind of reminds me like I can see. I'm not gonna say a Cal Raleigh year, but I think
Whoa.
Cal Raleigh kind of surprised people how good he was. But like when you watch Cal Raleigh, which I know you have
Oh
since you've been
yeah,
an
I
owner,
got I got Dumper in my fantasy team. Yeah,
like
he helped me win a championship.
you see Dumper how he swings that bat and the stance he has, the stability he has in his lower
Yeah.
half. I mean, it is special, and I feel like
Mm,
Ben Rice kind of reminds me of that a little bit. In
mm.
my mind, when I
Wow.
watch the play, he's like a Cal Raleigh light to me as far as when
That
I
was a
watch
surprise.
it.
That was a surprise to me. I'll tell you, my number 3 is Nick Kurtz,
Okay,
but only because I his numbers obviously are fantastic. Obviously, they were great, rookie of the year, all that, like all that those types of numbers and everything. I just think that consistency from Vladdy and Freddie put him over for me, and I think that there's a slump coming. And I know I mentioned this already, but I think that there's a slump coming.
but you still have him above
And
Devers,
I do, I do. You're
uh,
right. And against Bryce
Alonzo,
Harper, yeah,
Harper.
yeah. Um, I like Nick Kurtz. I like him, and we need to make sure that we say his name very
I
slowly,
was just thinking that
especially like after a couple of these
he's
beers. Like I
one
need to make
letter
sure
off
that
from a phenomenal baseball name.
oh god, he's actually one letter off from one of the worst baseball
Depends on how
names
you
of all
look at
time.
it, I guess.
Um, but I do like him a lot, and this is not just because I didn't put him at number 1 like you did. Like that doesn't mean that he's a bad player or anything. He's still number 3 after his rookie season, and I mean, like I said, 290, 36 home runs. Those are the big numbers that like stare at you, right? Like those
Right.
are the numbers that you're like, wow, this guy is going to be a gigantic star. I just being a Mets fan, right? I look at things like in a Mark Vientos sense. Like Mark Vientos, maybe not a high average hitter, and but he hit the year that the Mets in 2024 when the Mets went to the NLCS, right?
Yeah.
Vientos was a huge part of that.
Right.
He hit 27 home runs in the regular season, but he also came up in like May, right?
Sure.
So he didn't play a full season. He hit for a good average, and he was supposed to be a star. And last year he was absolute dog shit.
Which surprised me because I was big on him going into last
He
year, honestly.
played like
Which might not speak well for my
crap.
Nick Kurtz love this year, but I mean, either
So I
way,
always think that there's just a pullback in the second
sure,
year. Obviously, everybody knows this. The sophomore slump is a thing.
sure.
So that's why I put Nick Kurtz at number 3. All right, so I'll go with my number 4. My number
Mhm.
4 is one of my favorite players in baseball, even though he plays for the fucking Phillies, who I hate. But Bryce Harper is my number 4 first baseman, and I know that he is at the end of his prime. So
Sure.
he's starting to like not fall off the edge, but he is at the end of his prime, which is crazy to think about because I remember when he was hyped, like coming through, like he left high school early after his sophomore year. He went to JUCO.
Oh man, here's the
Like
man.
he came into MLB when he was like 17 or whatever he
He's on the
was.
cover of magazines at a
Yeah,
very
he was.
young age.
Yeah, he was great, and he was great. He's
Hmm.
been a great player. It's just as much as I hate the fact that like he plays baseball in the same division as my favorite team, I want to hate him, and I hate guys like Schwarber. I hate Trey Turner. I fucking hate like Zach Wheeler can go fuck himself because he left the Mets to go to the Phillies. But there's something about Bryce Harper that I love. His intensity, his game, just everything about him. I know he played catcher coming up. Like that's who he
I
was when
forgot
he
about
was
that.
coming up through college, right? Then through JUCO in high school. Like he was a
Right.
catcher. He adjusted to go to play the outfield. He did a
Mm.
great job at being an outfielder. Now he's adjusting to being the first baseman, and he's doing a great job at being a
I
defensive
think
first
he even
baseman.
played center field early.
Yeah,
I
he
think he was
did.
center field at
He
one
did.
point, which is surprising. You don't hear too many players who play catcher who can
Yeah.
also play center field.
And listen, last year he still hit 261 with a 487 OPS, hit 27 home runs, 75 RBIs. The 75 RBI surprises me a little only because he's in the middle of an exceptional
But
lineup.
go ahead and look at his stats over the last several years. I don't think he's hit over that since 2019. I don't know if you got it right
I
there,
don't have it right
but
in front of me
but
here,
I'm
but
pretty
we can
sure
take a
that
look.
it's been a while since he's hit 80 RBIs in 1 year. Uh, a little bit due to health concerns here and there. He's got nicked up a little bit, so I mean you have to kind of
Yeah.
bake that in. But it's not like I consider him to be an injury plagued player.
Well, the thing
But
is
he
he
does
also
get his
hits
bumps.
behind does he is he not number 2 in that lineup behind
I
Schwarber?
think oftentimes he is number
He's
two.
number 2, right? So and Schwarber is not a guy that like he's a Schwarber's an all or nothing guy. And I know that
He does get on base though,
he does
which is
now.
why he's
He
in that
has
top spot.
and he has upped his batting average significantly. Like he used to be one of those like Mark Reynolds, like Richie
200.
Sexton type of guys, like 200 and like 8,000 home runs a
What's he
season.
now, like 230? I mean, he's not that great,
No, he's not, and that's what I'm saying.
but
Like
it's with the on
he
base
doesn't get on
skills.
base as much as I think he does. He gets a lot. He gets a decent amount of walks. He gets some get hits, but like his but Schwarber is basically like a cleanup hitter for the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah.
Is how I think about him.
Mm,
He's a number one on that team in case like the 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters get on base, and then
mm,
he just cleans that shit up like their regular cleanup hitter, and maybe that is contributing. I think Schwarber's strikeout numbers contribute to the low amount of RBIs that Harper gets.
I like his RBI potential. He's cleaning up those bases himself before Harper gets there. Oftentimes,
Yeah,
with all those home
yeah.
runs.
So like I said, Bryce Harper is my number 4
Hmm.
first baseman. Who's your number 4?
A guy that used to be near and dear to your heart, maybe still is.
It's
Maybe
Petey.
there's some love lost, but it's
Yep.
Petey. It's Pete Alonso. I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'll just acknowledge it right here. You brought up a good point to me before about how he's bet behind Juan Soto, and I don't know if you're going to say that just now. I'll
I
let you.
I
I'll
I
let you
I
repeat
will
it.
say it. I mean, he listen. Last year
At
he
least I'm
hit
giving you credit
272.
for it, right?
He hit 272
Which
and
is a
like
big
30.
jump from before.
Yeah, he
But
was a
he's
doubles machine last year. Also,
sure,
no,
but I think there's that factoid alone, but there's also perhaps that allowed him to grow into becoming a better hitter himself. He does still have. I think his lineup right now is a little underrated. I think a couple players played poorly last year that could play better. That I would expect to be better than at least they were last year. In Kauser, in Westberg, and there's
mm,
other players that played well last year who
yeah.
he will be in the lineup with. But I think he's just one of those guys. You can't deny the power. It's for real. It's definite. He's a home run
I mean, he's a home
champ
run hitter.
also.
Yeah, he is.
So I
Yeah,
mean, I think the contact skills that perhaps he gained a little bit last year, albeit he's not going to have as much protection this year.
I mean, he did see
Without
some better pitches
sure,
with Juan hitting directly behind.
sure,
Well, he didn't hit directly behind Juan Soto because Soto was hitting well, Nemo Soto. Okay, but anyways, he
mhm,
had the protection in lineup
sure.
because of him, and it helped him tremendously. He did hit behind Soto because Soto was third, with Lindor either leading off or second, and then Nemo was at the
Mhm.
top of the lineup. Um,
But I think he's still a young player who is.
he's not that young, man.
But I
He's
mean,
gotten up there. Like
you know how it is in
he's in his
baseball.
prime,
A
basically.
lot of times, these guys. Baseball's a hard game. It's a game of failures. A guy, especially for a power hitter, I think. I think a lot of times you know, um, it just takes a little bit to put it all together. And I think last year he was able to, even if it had to do with the players around him helping him get there, I think he was able to put things together a little bit more so last year. And it just would not surprise me if he was able to take a little bit more of an overall hitter jump this year, even though it's different surroundings, even though there's different people around him as well as the surroundings of the ballpark, and maybe a spot in the lineup or whatever. Um,
But all right. So I don't. The one thing I question is it's not just that Soto took so many walks and that Soto hit so many home runs. Like he hit a career high. He had a career high in home runs with the Mets last year, right?
mhm.
Soto. Um, he took 100 plus walks, whatever the huge number was that he took. He led the league in walks. It's that Soto was also dangerous on the bases last year, and I think that that also helped with trying to keep him off the bases to run around and do whatever he wants. Pete hit so many doubles last year. Like every time that he didn't hit a home run, he was hitting a gapper
Right, and
somewhere. And like I know, so I like the fact that he had I don't know what it was. He had what 35 home runs, 38 home runs last year, whatever it was, and he hit like 37, 38 doubles. So he had almost 80 extra base hits last year. But a lot of that has to do with because he's seeing fastballs down the middle because they know that at some point he's going to strike out. And I feel like at some point he's going to get back to that Pete Alonso where he's just staring at a fucking strike three going down the middle.
or just to be devil's advocate,
Yeah, that was accurate.
he also was able to see better pitches to hit. It reminds me of like when my son plays. How there's age groups in football or
Yeah,
whatever, any sport. Football at a young age just might matter more. But when he's like the older kid, he gets that confidence going, and I
yeah.
always think how well that might carry on into next year. Whereas other times when he's like the younger kid, when you're like only a year apart or 2 years apart at a young age, it can make a big difference. Uh, so I think last year built some confidence for him. There might be a little bit of a concern for the fact that he's a little bit the man now. However, I think he might be a better
I mean, he's gonna have to
hitter, a
lead
better
that team. You're
player.
right.
I
You're
think
right.
he's a confident guy. I think he can hold it down. And I don't know. I think it's gonna be a big year for him. Even though I see and appreciate the concerns for him with the change, um,
He's just such a
I, I,
goofy
I'm a
dude
believer.
sometimes though. Like I like the fact so he is a clubhouse leader type of guy, like very
Hmm.
vocal, just like an all shucks type of kid. He reminds me of like Eli Manning.
Okay,
Just an all shucks, but like when it comes time for like crunch time, like he'll
nails.
kill it.
Yeah,
You know, uh, he proved it against the Brewers off of Devin Williams,
right,
the new Met. He in ninth inning of the final game of the ALD the NLDS 2 years
hmm,
ago, like he proved it, and just like Eli in the Super Bowl.
right,
Same type of mentality, but it's also like that, like I'm like the goofy kid that
right.
let me I'm just a big kid, and I'm not sure if he has the complete mentality. Like that Orioles dugout and that clubhouse is full of just young dudes, like young, second, third, fourth year guys who are maybe 21, 22, 23, 24 years old. And Pete is like the old 30-year-old guy, 31-year-old guy, or whatever he is now in that dugout and in that clubhouse. And I'm not sure if he has like the mental, like he's not going to have Francisco Lindor in that clubhouse. He's not gonna have a Kodai Senga in that clubhouse to kind of just like mentally reset him and be that leader. He has to step up, being that vocal leader instead of being like that all shucks goofy kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so we'll move on. All right.
Okay.
So that was your number four. Let's move on to your number five.
My number five. I actually when I started this list, I kind of thought he had a chance to be all the way up at the top because I really like this player. I've liked him for a long time
You're gonna
because
say the same dude I'm gonna
I've
say.
liked his power.
You're gonna say the same guy I'm gonna say.
Unfortunately, when I took a little bit deeper dive, he slugged less than 500 the last 2 years. When you look, he got better as the year went along last year, and not every year is the same. I think there's probably a better chance that he bounces back this year more so than regresses or continues on the path that he was the last 2 years. But my number five guy is Matt
Matt
Olson.
Olson, he's my number five also.
I'm a big fan.
Dude, listen, if you look at his numbers last year, right? He had the same batting average as Pete Alonso, 272. They both hit the
Gotcha.
same average. He hit 29 home runs, 95 RBIs. He scored almost 100 runs. He had one steal, we'll
Yeah.
count that off as whatever. But I agree. I think he's one of the most consistently average first basemen.
Well, but I mean,
You
he
don't you
was
don't
flirty with 600 before instead of this 475 stuff as far as his slugging percentage goes. I thought he was going to be like a 620, 585
yeah,
guy for at least a few years, at least in his prime years,
yeah.
because he's got a big power bat and you've seen his swing. It's a smooth
It
stroke,
is. It just I feel like sometimes he's hit or miss, but I also think that he's very consistent. So he doesn't
which is why I have him
he's
up
just
here,
very
even though
consistent.
the
This is
last two
why
years have been
you're
underwhelming.
right. This is why he's number 5. He's just consistently decent.
Hmm. He doesn't hit for high average usually,
No, and
like hardly
272 is like
ever.
a good year. I mean,
I don't
obviously,
expect him to get back there to 272. I think he's more of a 260 hitter at,
I don't see it either. But again,
but I think he'll hit more home runs. I feel like he's more of a. I feel like he can hit in the 30s pretty easily, more so than keep it in the high 20s.
so I've said this. I feel like for me, this is like the theme of everything I've been talking about, which is protection and lineup. Acuna being healthy again
Oh,
this year is going to make a big difference for Matt Olson,
sure. And you
and
said he
that
already
is
had
part of the
90
reason
something,
why I have him so high up as 5.
right?
Otherwise, I think I would have put a couple of the other guys. I actually would have put Pete Alonso ahead of him
Okay.
if Acuna wasn't back.
Okay.
So that's probably my only reason for putting Matt Olson at 5, and I think he's a good number 5. So I will go with my number 6.
Okay.
My number 6 is Pete Alonso,
Okay.
and the reason why I put him at 6, which seems like it's far down, even though it's really not that far down. I mean,
I mean,
he's still a top 6 first
these
baseman.
top few guys honestly are interchangeable for me. I mean,
Yeah,
even one or two more down the list for me,
yeah.
still I'd be very happy to get any of them. And we're really kind of splitting hairs in a way.
My reasoning for Pete Alonso is exactly what I said. It's he's in it. He's now no longer protected by Juan Soto, and we've already seen what he does without Soto. So we know what that Pete Alonso looks like. I know that was a younger Pete Alonso before
Hmm.
Soto came to the Mets, but we know what that Pete Alonso looks like. Still a very very good player, high strikeouts, and those high strikeouts I feel like they may return at some point. Now the ballpark he's playing in this year is going to help him,
Hmm.
right? Playing in Baltimore, smaller park, like I think I think it helps him a bit, but I just I just don't I can't see I think like you said, there's a little too much pressure on him to be like that guy that has to earn that 5 year 150 plus million dollar contract.
Sure.
Every player that signs, not every player, a lot of the players, a good majority of players that sign long-term deals that are more than 5 plus years always slump in their first year. Dude, I know I'm going back to the Mets again, but Francisco Lindor, his first season with the Mets, eh,
Yeah.
it was okay. Not nothing to write home about. Soto started off his career awful with the Mets. The first 2 months of his Mets career were trash. And then he ended up hitting career highs and everything. But I mean, this isn't just Mets players. This is tons of
Yeah,
players from
it's
every
it's, it's a
team.
common thing.
Yeah. So all right. So number 6. Is it my turn or is
I
it your
believe
turn?
it is your
Oh,
turn.
Pete Alonso was my 6. Who's your 6?
My 6 is Devers
Okay.
or Devers. He's on my favorite team. I'm not even sure what the correct pronunciation is, but it's Raphael,
How do
the
you
Ninja
not
Turtle.
know how to pronounce your own player's
I think it's
team's
more
player?
about me knowing that it was Devers my whole life, but for some reason right now I keep saying Devers.
Hmm. All right.
So anyway, I believe it's Devers, but either way,
So
Raphael's the cooler part of his
what
name
makes you
anyway.
like him so much? Like what's his bit? What's his?
Um, I think a lot of people are going to be down on him a little bit this year, but I think he needs to be given more credit for the professional hitter he really is. I think at one point when we were thinking about him coming up as with the Red Sox, I think he really proved to us that he was one of the best overall, all around type of hitters, kind of in the Freddie Freeman mold type
Mhm.
players. Maybe not the same kind of swing, maybe not everything's the same, but I feel like he was like, yeah, that guy is like one of the best players in baseball as far as a hitter.
I mean, there was a
I
time
just think he's got a
when he
great
was
hit
ranked in
tool.
like the top 15 of like ESPN's
Sure,
overall baseball
yeah,
player rankings when he was
yeah,
with the Sox.
and I think he's got some things to prove this year that are kind of easily accomplished in a way. In other words, I think San Francisco is a good squad. I think it's a good place for players to go to kind of feel at home in their career. I think it's the players around him. I think the management. I think the city itself. It's a family type atmosphere there. I feel like it's I feel like the pressure's a little bit off of him. And I don't know if you remember last year, the first third base thing, him
Yeah,
saying
right.
that he
Yeah,
wasn't going
when
to play
he was
first
gonna sit
base
out. Yeah,
because they
yeah.
should have told him in the preseason he's going to play first base. And he pushed back on that. I think he got a bad rap in the media on some level. Whether it was deserved or not for last year, I think this year he's going into it as a first baseman. And there's a couple things with this. I think he's going to want to prove to people that he is a team guy. I don't think he's a jerk. I've seen him in interviews. Being a Giants fan, I've seen some things he's done. So I think he's going to try to prove his spot. I think there's enough players around him to where he's going to feel the pressure as the guy,
So
but
it's not
he's
the
going to
jerk
be able
factor.
to like be a leader of that group
You
of
know,
hitters.
sometimes I look at Devers as Devers, whatever. I'll call him Devers. Like he hesitated in my opinion last year. He wasn't a jerk and he wasn't an asshole about any of it. He all he did was he stated what the Red Sox told him, and he said, "I'm going to stick to what you guys told me." So if
Yeah,
you
but
guys are gonna tell me to put my glove down, right, quote unquote, I'm gonna put my glove down and be a full time DH, then I'm gonna be a full time DH, and I'm not gonna focus on defense. My
I don't
concern,
think the
though,
public perception around that sentiment was generally positive. I feel like he got flack for that.
I think he did, but
And
so
just with that, I think he's going to try to prove himself
my one
as a team
concern,
player this year.
my one concern for him though is that he is converting into becoming a first baseman.
Sure.
And so there's and again I know we look at this a lot of this stuff from a fantasy like offensive counting stats the perspective, but I look at it from like his defense at first base is probably going to be lacking at some point, and this is the reason why I have him a couple of spots down for where you have him at 6. I have him a couple of spots down. But that's the reason. My reasoning is because I don't think that his defense is up to par for a first baseman yet. And I know he looks he's athletic enough, but I don't think he's like the greatest,
Well, it's probably why he didn't want
athlete
to just dive
on the
into it
field.
last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he probably had some
Like he
nerves.
wanted
Yeah,
to
I
go into
agree.
the offseason so he felt better about it. So he can maintain, some composure in the batter's box. So I think he just takes his craft seriously on both
Yeah.
ends. The only concern I have for him is the park. I feel like everything around him is good. I think the Giants lineup is underrated. I think
So
his
that's the
hit
other
tool is
reason why I have
underrated.
him actually a little further
It's his
down is because
park
the
that's
park
more difficult.
is way too big. I
But I
mean, he
but I
has
feel
power enough, so like that really isn't a gigantic concern, no pun intended.
mhm,
Um,
gigantes.
but I do think that like playing in San Francisco does have its disadvantages,
Sure,
obviously for any hitter
but I
from a
think
power perspective, at
I
least.
but I think, all those slumps that players fall to because, they're hitting it in a certain area and, in other parks and like 75% of the parks be a home run, but there it's not. I feel like he can overcome that.
Yeah.
I think he might not be a 35 home run hitter, but maybe a 27 home run hitter. But a lot of those hits that he'll get will end up being for extra. I think he might hit for more triples this year than he has in his whole career, even though he's not as fast as he has been,
And he
just
hit
based on the,
35
the
home runs
dimensions of
last
the
year.
park.
So I
There
mean,
you go.
but that's between the
A
Sox and
couple
and the
different.
Giants.
I
So
would be surprised if he hit 30 again in San Francisco. Not all in San Francisco, but for the season.
yeah.
And I think that's an accomplishment. Playing in San Francisco.
And he also lost his third base eligibility at this point too. So if we're talking about fantasy
Right.
and we're mentioning that he's losing his third base
Right.
eligibility because he is strictly a first baseman slash DH at this point.
The other thing that I would like to mention as far as him this year and the setup and the whole thing, the story about him this year is the Giants have a young prospect right on his heels who they're talking about moving to outfield. Regardless of the fact they're talking about a position change for Bryce Eldridge, I feel like he still feels that sort of it's like the right level of pressure. It's not the young man's going to come over and take his job. It's more like there's the troops are coming. Like reinforcements are coming. There's a young plays first base in Eldridge.
Sure.
So Devers has to be serious. I don't think that was a issue. I think he is serious. I think
Yeah.
he's on his game. He's professional. That's why I didn't want to. He put down his glove. That's why he was going to do that last year. He didn't want to change it
See,
in the
it's
middle of the
crazy that he
year.
caught flack for all that because I do think
Right,
that he
but
was actually acting very professionally in that sense. I think that at first he caught a lot of nonsense because he was so steadfast in his in his thinking that
he was
I
irritated by it.
I yeah, but and the way I look
But I
at it
thought it
is
was
the Red
righteous.
Sox told him. what to do.
Oh,
And he
sure.
said, I'm going to
You
do
and I
that.
agree with him.
I
I think
agree
the
with him.
general consensus, though, was not necessarily on his side, and it only has to be like half of the people to not be on his side for you to feel that vibe,
Well, it makes it looks
coming
like
from
he's
a
not a
fan
team
base.
player,
And then he's
right?
jettisoned
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's going to be in his crawl. He's
Yeah.
I think it's going to be in the back of his mind. I think it's going to be a motivating factor. I
Yeah.
think he's with a good lineup with a good group of guys.
Yeah.
He's a leader of that of those hitters. But you got guys like Chapman around him.
Hmm.
There's some good hitters
Yeah.
in that lineup. So
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his this year. I feel like in a standard draft where there's no keepers, I feel like I would end up with a lot of Devers
All right. So he's your number six.
or Devers, whichever one I would get.
Devers Devers.
So yeah, he's my number
Who's
six.
your
But
number
my number
seven?
seven is the guy we already talked about. We don't really need to go in at length about him, but it's Harper.
Bryce
But the
Harper.
reason I'll just say that the reason I'm fading him a little bit is just the age and the general diminishing skills. But with him, kind of like Freeman, I don't think it's going to be a precipitous jump in any category at any point in time,
Mhm.
other than like steals. You know, I don't know how many steals he had, but I know we're not counting on Freddie Freeman to get any steals this year. Whereas before, he
None.
could be like a double-digit steal guy at least.
Bryce had 12 steals last year.
So I think those 12 steals may turn into close to none or three at in 1 year span. But any other category, I don't see having a precipitous fall off,
Yeah.
especially since he's always been a good hitter. He barrels the ball up. He's got a good hard hit rate. He draws walks. He's been around for a while. He's been in the game as a star for a while. I don't think anything's too big for him. He's going to maintain a level of production. To have him down at seven is kind of crazy, but I think it just speaks to the list. And perhaps I'm a little
Well,
youth heavy at the top of
well,
my
I think
list.
that I have a little bit of surprise at number seven, and I
Okay,
don't know if you even have him in your top 10. But my number seven is Vinny Pasquantino.
he's in my top 10.
All right, good. I think he has been he has been steadily just kind of climbing up every year. I thought that when he came up, he was going to be a stud right off the bat, and he wasn't. He wasn't.
Mhm.
He was good, and he had the potential to be good, and he had the potential to be great. Eventually, he has the potential to be the number one uh, fantasy
At first
like number
base,
wise fantasy first baseman.
he's
Although
more of a
Nick Kurtz
handful of
is
guys.
probably going to lap him
There's
at
a
some
couple
point.
guys I could see there, but yeah, I buy that.
But there's something about Vinny that I really like a lot. I will admit this. I don't watch a lot of Royals games. I don't think anybody does unless you live
No,
in fucking Kansas City because
right.
it's the Royals. Who gives a shit?
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, everybody wants to watch Bobby Witt, and they have some good pitching there, here and there, and
Here and there.
yeah, here and there,
Hmm.
once in a while.
Reclamation projects and stuff like that.
Some young pitchers here and there, and then they get rid of them, and
Right.
you
Go
know,
pitch better elsewhere.
yeah. But I really like Vinny. His numbers last year were I'll read them off here. He had 264 with 32 home runs and 113 RBIs. Scored 72 runs as the cleanup
Mhm.
hitter there,
Mhm.
and that 32 home runs sticks out to me only for the fact that he is a big dude. Like that
Right.
is a big guy,
Yeah.
and you expect him to mash,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
And finally, I think that he finally figured out how to become an actual true power hitter with a decent average.
Sure.
So I don't have him as high as I have Pete yet, but I think there is going to come a time very soon within the next year or two when Vinny passes a guy like Pete.
Hmm.
Pete is at the top of his prime, and he's about to
Right.
go on a decline, even though he's on a 5 year deal.
Well, what's Pete's age?
Pete's like 31,
Okay.
and I think Vinny's in his like
28.
late 20s,
Yeah.
28
Something like
sounds
that.
about right. I just the thing is he's really hard to figure out fantasy wise. You don't know from Vinny what you're going to get. You can't tell if he's going to be a good hitter or a shitty hitter. You don't know if he's going to have good power or shitty power. You know you don't know if he's going to strike out or if he's going to hit something like a double. You don't know if he's
Right.
clutch. You don't know if he like it's really hard to watch a guy like Vinny Pasquantino and say I believe in that guy. But I want to think that last year he took a step forward and he's going to
No
build
doubt.
on it.
No doubt.
You know,
Yeah. I feel like he gained a lot of confidence last year. I think for a young player, we talked about the Giant Stadium. I think the Royal Stadium too. I think when you're a young player, not many people around you to protect you. You know, there's Bobby Witt, yeah, but he's probably hitting in front of you.
Yep.
He's not hitting behind you necessarily.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily give you more pitches to hit. Uh, the presence of him is hopefully going to give Bobby Witt more pitches to hit. The
Right.
emergence of him.
Right. Exactly.
But I think as a young player, when you got a difficult park, when you have limited surroundings, you're kind of already expected to be something. You know, it's not like he's joining the Dodgers lineup like Pajes as a young player or anything like that. He's like almost asserted into that meat of the lineup. So I think with all that pressure early on, it makes it difficult. So, you know, the Italian breakfast was not cooking right off the bat,
That's a great fucking nickname.
isn't it? And he's
That's a
also the
great nickname.
Pasquatch. I mean, what the
Yeah.
heck?
He's also a Jets
How does
fan.
how does a guy get two awesome nicknames like that?
Do you know that he asked the Jets. I'm a Jets fan. Obviously, you know this. Um, Unfortunately, I hate being a fucking Jets fan. So that's like
I was
that's something
wondering
for a
when you were going to
different
say
show.
that
But that
part.
sucks. I hate being a fucking Jets fan, but I am. But he asked the Jets if he could be a person that like reads off the draft
Oh,
pick.
sure, yeah.
You
Little
know, even
draft
in the, like the
people.
seventh round of last year's draft, and the Jets said no. Like, how tone deaf are you guys? And you're like, oh, well, he doesn't play for a New York team. The dude is from like Jersey or Long Island or wherever the fuck. Like, let the guy do. He's a
Wow.
Jets fan. There aren't that many of us
I'll
that
bet you if he,
actually are willing to do that.
I bet you if he came from a city that didn't have a direct football franchise associated with it,
And I think
like
that
Kansas
was the
City.
reason.
You
Yeah, that
know
was
what I'm
probably the
saying?
reason for it. But I was just like, the Jets have to be tone deaf to say no to a Major League Baseball player in a different market,
But then
rooting for them.
as everyone's watching, like, why is he up there? Why is he up there? And then everyone's talking about that, and then they later find out, like a year later, oh, I guess he's a Jets fan.
Maybe it was the Royals that said no. Maybe the Royals were like, "Hey, you got to
Yeah,
represent
you
Kansas
never know.
City," and like, I don't know. But I like the fact that he's a
I just blame the
Jets
Jets for
fan.
everything, so
Yeah, the
that's what I
Jets
would
suck.
just get in the
Whatever.
habit of.
All right, so Vinny P is my seventh guy. Do you have you? Who's your seven?
Seven was Harper.
Okay, all right. So I'll go with my eight then.
Okay,
My eight is Devers.
okay.
And when I originally came up with my list, I didn't have him in my top 10 at all. I think the conversation that you and I had the other day, I think it talked me into it a little bit
Sure.
of his numbers are great and they are good. There's just something about him transitioning to first base that I think I'm not looking at it necessarily just from a fantasy perspective. I'm looking at it from a perspective of, can he play first base defensively?
How much is that going to his having to adjust take away from his hitting?
Right.
Is
Can
what
he
you're
also
saying?
be a clubhouse leader with guys that are already established? Like, I know that he came over, at a little before the trade deadline, well, significantly before the trade deadline last year. And so he's ingrained himself into that clubhouse, but there was something the Giants didn't really get better when he showed up.
Okay.
Did they? I mean, I don't think they got much better. Maybe they got a
No.
little better when Adamas started finally hitting a little bit, but they didn't
Yeah.
get necessarily big time. Like their record wasn't their winning percentage didn't become significantly better because Devers joined that lineup.
Well, they actually started off well without Devers, and they were a little bit of a surprise. Maybe not the league surprise, but they were a little bit of a surprise because they were keeping pace for a little while. I
Oh,
don't know
with the
if you remember,
Dodgers.
like Jung Ho Lee was off to a great start. Helio Ramos was playing well
Yeah, I love
early
Julio
on,
Ramos.
and
Yeah.
he trailed. I don't know how. I think he trailed off kind of halfway through the year.
Yeah.
He hit up and down a little bit, but Jung Ho Lee really fell off. But anyway, the Giants were off to a fast start, and it is true that when Devers got there, they fell off. I think they had a pretty long losing streak in there. I think they really kind of, you know, played poorly
Yeah.
overall as a team as far as their record showed.
They have good players. They just
But they
I
were
don't
able
feel
to
like he
gain
did
some
anything for
traction
them.
again. You know how baseball is. I don't think that necessarily is indicative of what's going to happen this year. I think you know, he went from Boston, a good hitter's park with a specific set of dimensions
Hmm.
for why they're being good. You know, the Green
Yeah.
Monster is a little bit different to a pitcher's park that also has a triples alley, like different set of
Yeah.
dimensions, just a different park. The turmoil he dealt with before as he left Boston, all that in his head, having to move
And
his
maybe you're right.
family.
Maybe that turmoil is like behind him, so maybe
I
his
think it
mind's
is. I
a
think
little bit more
he's
clear.
yeah, and things are on his terms this year. Like he was able to have the off season with the glove
Yeah.
at first base. He's a pro. I feel like he's just like a real pro, a real true baseball player. You've
Yeah.
alluded to defensive prowess a few times, and and you alluded to him as it being more of a hiccup for him this year,
Mhm.
and that does make sense. But at the same time, when I think of him, I think of his professionalism, and I think of those comments you made. And almost to me,
That makes it
it
sound
makes
like
me
I
feel
talk shit
more
about him.
comfortable with
Those
him.
negative comments you made about him. He was so
Well, he wasn't even
terrible.
on your list, bro. That's pretty
That's true.
negative. We're talking
I did
about
say
Devers.
that.
Who'd
That's
you
true.
have up there? You have Yanni or Diaz up there, and not him.
I did have one other player on there that ended up dropping down into my honorable mentions list that I had up there in my first base list that I had over Devers. But the more I looked at his numbers, I'm like, you know what? He actually is
Pretty
he's
solid
pretty damn
player.
solid. All right, so that was your number eight. Well, Devers was my number eight. Who was your number eight?
My number 8 is Freddie Freeman. Isn't
Holy
that crazy?
crap!
You're number 1, my number 8.
Well, see, and this is the difference between you know, who did it? Well, you had Devers like way high. You had him what, number four?
Devers for me is just 6.
Oh,
Mine
number six.
goes Kurtz, Guerrero, Rice. Rice is the guy who I have way up there.
Oh yeah,
And then
Ben.
I
Oh,
go
Ben Rice is the
Alonzo,
guy. Yeah, that's
Olson,
what.
Devers,
Okay,
Harper.
all right.
So with Freeman, let me just say real quick. Again, it's the no steals this year. It's maybe
There's
19
no
home runs
steals.
this
There's no
year.
steals anytime.
He used to
He's
have a
just a
few.
slow dude,
I
man.
mean,
He's old.
it adds a little bit, like Cal Raleigh last year, the catcher. He got steals last year, and that really helped his. Yeah,
How many steals did he get?
I believe so.
I feel
If
like
you
I
can
won
look
that
it up real quick,
championship without all those
you weren't
steals.
thinking he was stealing, but he was stealing.
Hold on,
I believe
I'm gonna
so.
look this up while you
Yeah,
talk about this.
look
Hold on.
that up. So yeah, he's gonna have great counting stats, but I think in general he's getting a little bit older. Skills are diminishing. If you take Olson, Devers, Harper, Freeman, I mean honestly, I wouldn't be surprised what order they went in any order. And we're talking that's like 5 through 8 for me.
Yeah,
Um, my top four are Kurtz, Guerrero, Rice, and Alonso. I just think there's just a little bit more upside there.
Rice is so
Olson, I was
crazy.
concerned about his slugging, his power the last couple of years. Devers, it's the park. With Harper's older, somewhat diminishing. Freeman again, diminishing skills, but just like Harper, I don't think it's going to be precipitous. I think it's a very strong first base class, very strong. So there's those first
Yeah,
8, and then I'll just say right now I'm not sure if it's my turn,
number nine.
but because we've been
Yeah.
discussing these players, I'll just go ahead and say I have the Pasquatch as number 9.
Okay. All right.
I think he is getting better for sure. I wouldn't be
But
surprised if
not
there's a
that much
little bit of
better
a
because he's
step
at number
back in
nine.
some way or whatever, but I still think he's gonna be a 30 home run hitter. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit more 260, but his on base
If
skills
he
were a
took a
little
step
better.
back at this point in his career, is he considered a bust?
I mean, just like an overall outcomes fantasy perspective, because he did kind of make such a jump last year. I think that 270 batting average might go to like 260,
Hmm.
but it might also include better on base skills because he'll be a better hitter. I think it might include even a little bit better home runs. I think if you were going to the advanced metrics, you may see a better hard hit percentage and barrel percentage, things like that, because I think he is a really good hitter. So I do think he's on the up, but we do have a glut of historically good hitters here in
Hmm.
the middle of this first base, group of guys. I mean, just look at that: Guerrero, Alonso, Olson, Devers, Harper, Freeman. These are guys that have done it. They've been there and done it
Yeah.
before, year over year, like
I mean, a lot
in
of these
different
guys that we're
ways.
putting into the middle of these lists, they are very same statistically.
Yeah,
You know,
in a certain way.
in first base, I feel like isn't one of those positions where you have a super low batting average with a super high amount of home runs, right? Like that Schwarber type, or that
Right.
like those types that hit like 220 and they hit like 40 home runs or 35 home runs a year.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of good first baseman batters that make good contact, hit a good amount of doubles, they hit a good amount of home runs. It's obviously it's a corner infield position, and you have
Right.
to be a good hitter to be a corner infielder. That's a natural thing. First base, third base, you have to be a good hitter. You got to have a decent average, and you got to have good power,
Yeah. The
right?
power has to be there
The power has to be
on
there
some level.
for all these guys. And I mean, I know I put Freddie number one, but I mean the dude still hit like mid 20s home runs last year.
Did he?
It's still, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't in like he didn't hit like 18. There's a reason why I put him number one.
Gotcha.
All right, so you had that was your number nine.
So 9, yeah, was Vinny Pasquantino.
All right, Vinny. All right, so my number nine is Michael Bush.
Nice. I'm a big Bush fan. I kept going with it, even though I knew it
Same.
was going to come out a
Yeah,
certain way.
I also like that.
Oh,
Uh, yeah,
the, the
Michael
the
Bush.
the music group, you big fan?
Yeah,
Everything Zen and all that.
sure, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sure. I didn't know
Um,
that.
I like Michael Bush to a certain extent. There's a reason why he's number nine. That like I thought that I would put him a little higher, honestly, earlier when I was going through this list. I was gonna kind of put him maybe at like number seven, number six, seven, somewhere in that range.
Hmm.
Um, but I had to drop him down a little bit because I did think that Devers was a better player overall.
Hmm.
Michael Bush is a good player. He hits for a good
Hmm.
average. He hits, decent power. He plays good defensively. He's just a very solid baseball player. And there's
Yeah.
nothing else. There's no frills. There's nothing exciting about him. There's the one thing I will say that I think that will help his stats this year is having Alex Bregman in the lineup.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that is really the big factor where I said I don't want to drop him out of my top 10. I'll put him in there because again, the whole theme of what everything I've been talking about is protection in the lineup.
Sure.
And I think Bregman provides good protection for him in the lineup.
Hmm. He's coming up for me in my list. I'm a big fan this year. Like I made the comment before about Devers. I feel like I would have a lot of Bush. Uh, there we go again. I'm gonna have a lot of Bush in my life in the future. I think
Yeah, I bet.
because
I bet.
I'm a big fan of like I don't mind mixing up my lineup based on who they're facing. And he's kind of an extreme splits guy. He
Mhm.
hits righties, which is the better one to be hitting, obviously because there's more
Right, there's
of
more of
them.
them. Yeah.
So I don't mind having a guy that kills righties, but then struggles a bit against lefties, and he's one of those guys. He actually has a hard time against lefties. And with the number of first basemen that are here, I mean, there's players that aren't on our list. I would be comfortable on a day that Bush faces a difficult lefty. I'd be very comfortable with putting another guy in there and letting him go to the bench. And that means that in the sample that you're getting out of Bush, you're getting a guy who's going to slug certainly over 500. He's
Yeah.
going to have a good average. He's going to get counting stats in that lineup.
But
So
his
when
number
he's
of
in
at
there
bats is
against
going to be lower
sure,
because of that.
but you're also not playing him in those days. So you'll get the at bats from someone
Someone
else.
else that may have
So
better
yeah, on
success.
this
Sure.
list he'll go down. But as far as the construction of your team, if you do it right, there's going to be some times where you might miss out on a home run or two, where he's going to get a tough lefty, and then a righty comes in relief and he cranks it, or he hits one or a few off a lefty, or even he shows that he's improving off lefties.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing. If I were to draft Bush, I would definitely look for another solid first baseman.
Mhm.
I
One of the
whether
honorable mentions.
sure, yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of them honestly.
I
There's
have a good one
so
whenever we get to it.
so I'm a big fan of Bush. I actually kind of like it when you can consolidate a little bit, like when you can count on those numbers a little bit more to happen because he happens to be playing a righty, which is more of the time, like we said. But if he's going up against some bum righty,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel good about him in the lineup,
Yeah.
even if he might get pulled later with a lefty coming in relief.
Yep.
I just think he's excellent, and there is a good chance for him to have more substitutions because there's Matt Shaw. I feel like they have some depth at that position where they can pull him if need be
Yeah.
if he doesn't show that he's improving against lefties.
Yeah.
The other thing about him is I feel like last year was his coming out. I don't think he was very good.
I
He
think
was
so
always
too.
a guy that they talked about as having that potential until last year. So I
Yeah.
think he's going to build on that success. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit against lefties a little bit better. But my plan for him would be to play him against the righties, especially if you had like a corner infield spot, playing him
Yeah.
against the righties, and you had another guy to put, on deeper formats.
Yeah.
If you had another guy to plug in when he plays against a lefty, or if it's the corner infield spot, you can
Yeah.
just roll him in that spot.
Yeah. All right. So that was my number nine. Where's your number nine?
Uh, I think we've already my number 9 was Pasquantino.
Oh,
I
okay.
started
All
with
right.
him.
So then go to your number
So
10.
my
Who's
number
your number 10?
10, just before Bush. So we don't have. I already glazed Bush.
Yep.
So I'm all over it, man. so my number 10.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
I'm back.
was trying to think of a joke here, but I think he goes to a dark spot if you try to. Soderstrom. Soderstrom.
That's your number 10, huh?
That's my number 10.
Damn, he was not even in my honorable mentions.
Now, I think a lot of people are going to be with you in that. I actually experienced him last year.
You say a lot of
in
weird
that,
things right now.
in that, I had him on my team when he was hitting bomb after bomb after bomb at the beginning of the year, and he was awesome. I actually tried to trade him like crazy at
Hold
that
on, hold
point.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I need a timeout for here for a second. So hold on. You picked Nick Kurtz as your number one,
Hmm.
and you're putting Soderstrom at your number 10.
Yeah,
They're not on the same team.
sure.
So is
I'm
he
not.
that good of a first baseman over Kurtz? Not over Kurtz, but like, is he going to take that many? Is he going to
They're
get
both
enough
playing all the
starts?
time. Yeah,
Is
they're
he going to get enough starts at first base over Kurtz
well.
to get
They moved him to
qualified?
left field, I think, for as Kurtz came up. I feel like he's still first base eligible because it took a little while for Kurtz to
Okay,
come up.
all right. So
So
you
he might not
okay?
be on this list next year unless they do some tuning this
Okay.
year that makes him eligible.
So
Uh,
you're looking at this guy as like fantasy wise, he's still eligible at first base, and he
sure.
could be like a
Yeah, he's
sleeper
on the
for
first base
that
list, any
position.
format. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, the trajectory of his year last year, he was awesome at the beginning of the year. Like nobody could touch him. He was like maybe the best fantasy player, like really like top 3 or 5 at some point very early last year.
Mm,
Super hot. Fell off a lot, but in the second half, when everyone thought that he was dead and gone, he actually, I think, hit over 300 in the second
mm.
half and had decent slugging. But what I like is the fact that he didn't hit as many home runs, but he seemed to be a better hitter. And with him being as young as he is, if he's able to combine those two things, or even like maybe not hit his go crazy with the home runs like he did at the beginning, but still be that true power hitter because he's got a sweet swing, but also, if he shows that he gained a little bit from his hitting prowess as a hitter that he seemed to develop as the year
Yeah,
went on, slowly, he just kind of slowly became a real good hitter. He's actually a guy that, again, I'm going to have a lot of shares of him. I feel like he'd be a great corner infield spot. I feel like he's going to surprise some people because everyone forgot about him after they fell in love with him. They forgot about him. I think a lot of people think he's just kind of
I really,
flash in
ho-
the pan
I
and
really
sucks
hope
now.
that the guys that are in our fantasy baseball league together aren't listening to this because
I
they
know.
are going.
I know.
We're gonna keep this episode
It'll
away from those guys
Right. They'll
until
poach all
after
these
the draft.
players. Right. That's
Yeah,
the
which
it's
I
the
guess is
difficult thing about these
which
things.
I guess is pointless after the draft for them to listen
Right.
to it.
Yeah. Sure. Hey guys,
the
want
the
to check
reason
out this
the reason
podcast?
for these episodes the reason for these episodes is for people to get
Right.
familiar with these players
Sure.
and agree with us or have give them some ideas
At
on
least
fantasy players. But
this is just for people who aren't in our long-term
yeah,
fantasy league.
listen,
So if you're in our
Bill,
long-term league,
Tim,
don't watch.
Zalaka, if you guys are listening specifically, just
Earmuffs.
go listen to episode 2 or something else.
Yeah.
All right, so your number 10 was Tyler Soderstrom
Yep.
from Oakland, well, from the A's or whatever they like to call themselves now. My number 10 is Spencer Torkelson. And I think that Torque had like you know me, I love guys like him, baseball players like him. I drafted these guys for years. I kept them when they were like young, thinking that they were the next big superstar. Right?
Mhm.
Will Myers is a guy that I kept for a couple of years before I realized that he just wasn't a good baseball player. Like he was good, but not the 38 home run minor league hitter that he was. Right? Um, but Torkelson, I feel like he's turning a corner, right? He and Vinny Pasquantino to me are very similar. They're both just big dudes that just are like supposed to be very powerful hitters, and but they didn't achieve what they were supposed to at the beginning of their careers.
Sure.
And Torque has been at this point where he got sent down to the minors a few times because he just wasn't hitting. And but the Tigers didn't really have an option to replace him with. So they're like, we got to fast track this kid back to the majors and fix his swing, get him back to being the power hitter that we know that he was in Double A and Triple A, and let's try to do it. And I think that Torkelson, he hit 31 home runs last year, career high. But his average was still a little bit lower, so he's 240. And to be honest, I was like teetering between Ben Rice and him for this 10 spot.
Mhm.
And I left Ben Rice off only because I just haven't seen enough from Ben Rice yet for me to put him in my top 10. I know he's your number three, but like I just haven't seen enough from Ben Rice to put him in my top 10. I have seen I know what I've seen Torkelson's trajectory of what his
Mhm.
career can be, and he played pretty well last year.
Mhm.
Like he was a good first baseman.
Throughout the year,
Like
and
I
it seemed
know
like
he's
he
not on
started
your
to get
I
better
know he's not
during
on
the
your
year.
top 10 list, but he was he's
I'm a
a
fan though.
very good solid first baseman. He plays a good defensive first base. He hits for power. He hasn't hit for average yet, but maybe somehow in this lineup he just keeps improving. And even if he doesn't, to be honest, and he stays at this, you know, between this 230 and 250 average type of player and hits
Mhm.
like low 30s, that's all the Tigers need,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know. And
I
he
like
plays
it.
good defense. That he's just a good, solid first baseman. Finally,
I feel like he's also a good dude and a student of the game. I feel like I've heard those things about him.
yeah.
So I think he's serious. I think he's been good in the clubhouse. I feel like the guys around him are happy for him that he's able to turn his career around. I feel like there's a good chance that he'll get better this year, even
Hmm.
from last year. More so in the areas like strikeouts to walks and maybe a little bit in the
Hmm.
batting average, things like that. But I think he's a low 30s or 35 home run hitter, which I mean, that's
Yeah,
fucking great.
yeah,
So yeah, I like that pick.
yeah. All right, and so you already gave us your number 10, right? Yeah.
No, my I
Oh,
did give you my number 10, and my number 11 was Bush. So
okay.
we don't
All
need to
right.
get back
So
into the
let's
Bush.
let's do our. I don't know how many did you write down for your
Well, I do
honorable
have a 12.
mentions? You have
Okay.
12. So give me
Oh, I
your two other
oh
honorable
yeah,
mentions there.
11 and 12 are Bush and Diaz.
Oh, okay.
Now with Diaz, we've already talked about
Hmm.
Bush enough, but as far as Diaz, it's also dependent on the format. You and I play in a head-to-head leagues where walks matter, on base matters,
He hit 300 last year with
right?
25 home runs. Those are some nice,
Right.
solid
And he
numbers.
also walks maybe even more than he strikes out. I don't know if he did that last year.
Yeah, he was. So he was around pick 200 last year in drafts. That was his
But what about
his
his
draft pick, but his draft positioning. But
K to
I
walk
mean,
ratio? I think he's got just about as many walks as he does strikeouts. Very close. Is
so the one thing, and I don't have his K to walk numbers here, but I mean, he is also entering his age 34 season,
right.
which I think is a slight bit of a deterrent, and maybe like
Mhm.
I don't know if that factored into your your
That's why he's a
pick
little bit
here.
down the list, even though he's got the profile I really like. I really pay attention to the K to walk ratios. I think it
Yeah, yeah,
speaks to their overall hitting profile. Those are sneaky points, I think.
yeah,
When you got a guy that's not striking out, that is drawing walks, that's just points that, you do that enough, and that's going to make up for any lack of home runs. But the guy hit 25, but the guy hit 300. Any lack in
yeah,
batting average. There's really not many holes to his game. Plays in a tough park, but he's been there for a while. He's more of a line drive hitter, not a home run hitter.
yeah,
But he's also a high EV guy. Hits the ball really hard.
yeah.
So I think up until last year, he wasn't getting up in the mid 20s for home runs, but he's got a good frame. He swings the bat really hard,
I think that that's the one
and it's a hard
concern
guy to
about
leave
him.
off my
That's
list.
the one concern about him. I know he hit 25 home runs last year, but it is difficult to think that he is going to maintain a 20 plus home run rate.
I agree with that, but I think with that he will maintain his batting average, I believe,
Because
because
I
he
mean,
is
he hit
that line
300 though. Yeah,
drive hitter,
yeah.
and
Okay,
he's done
I
for
see that.
years. He's hit
Yeah.
280 or 300.
Listen, last year he also played his home games at a AAA or spring training park.
That's true.
So maybe and I don't, in all honesty, I don't know the dimensions of Steinbrenner Field
Hmm.
and what it took for the Rays dimensions to I don't know how many extra numbers it added for them, but maybe it did add a little bit of numbers for him because he's playing outdoors in a smaller stadium,
Hmm.
with fence that's maybe like a little bit more pulled in than what he's used to at the Trop.
Yeah,
Um,
which the batters at the Trop I've heard has given some players a hard go of it. At the plate, I feel like there's been some people that have really struggled. He's been able to maintain a decent hitter over there, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, a move back may spell some doom for his home run numbers. They may come down to like 17 or so, which is a big drop from 25.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
think he's just a good professional hitter.
yeah,
He's not going to hurt you in the K to walk ratio department. He's going to continue to get some. steady points and head-to-head formats that account for walks and deter you from, or at least take away from your points.
Yeah,
You get Ks. So he's just a hard guy, especially with the makeup of this list. I definitely wanted to be on this list and mentioned just to kind of
yeah,
just because of his different profile.
yeah. I don't have him in my honorable mentions. I do have Ben Rice in my honorable mentions. Obviously, he's bound to take the next step. I don't know if he's going to take the number three
Hmm.
best first baseman next step, but I do think that he's going to take the next step at some point,
Okay.
which will be next year. He's in there. Wilson Contreras,
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, he's up there for
I mean,
me.
I like the ballpark change for him. I like. I think I just like the players he's going to be around. I think that's an exciting team.
Yeah,
I think there's a little less pressure on him,
yeah,
but I think there's also a little bit of something to prove in the new spot. And
yeah,
he had a decent year last year. He's very steady. He hits doubles.
yeah,
Well, he has some pop. He won't kill you in the average department. He gets a lot. If we were talking catcher, we would say he gets a lot of at bats.
yeah,
But now he's just an exclusive
yeah,
first baseman. So I think he's further down list this year than he has been historically because he switched positions.
yeah.
Moreover, but yeah, I think that's a good guy to bring up.
And then my last guy that I have, and I'm strictly looking at him from a fantasy perspective. Not I don't care about. I know I talked about like defense and clubhouse fit and all this other stuff, like all of the intangibles. I'm looking at this dude from a strictly a fantasy perspective as a guy that can be the guy that you kind of mentioned, which is if you think that you have a first baseman that has decent splits and you need
Hmm.
to sit him, I
Sure,
think Jorge Polanco will be a really good pickup for somebody that needs a spot start at a first baseman.
sure,
He, I, the Mets made no bones about the fact that they're bringing in basically all shortstops to play infield, and like
right.
this guy's going through a position change, obviously from where he played in Seattle. He's going to be playing first base for the first time, but he's also athletic and he's also a professional hitter. He's a very good professional hitter. He is the guy that I think people forget about when they think about who the Mets brought in this offseason,
Right.
right? Like, they brought in Freddie Peralta,
Yeah.
they brought in I'm a Mets fan, I should know this, but they brought in good
Number of
players.
players, hitters and
Right.
pitchers.
Right. I mean, we brought in Bo Bichette.
Right. That's the one I'm
I mean,
thinking of.
really like really good solid Marcus Simeon.
Yeah.
Brought in good players, and Jorge Polanco, I think, is the one that gets really forgotten as the guy
It's
that gets
easy
brought
too
in.
when you're talking about those guys that have been towards the top of the
And I
position.
think a lot of the people that like I see a lot of comments on social media, and they're like, "Oh, well, he should be a DH because he doesn't belong playing first base." Like, how the fuck do you know?
I mean, it
Have you
seems like
seen him play first
if
base?
someone played first base, I would say maybe he can play second base or shortstop, but not the other way around, really.
Just let him try
Other
it
than
out.
his length.
Listen, Mike Piazza played first base
Right.
for the Padres, for the A's, for the Mets.
Yeah.
Like, if that dude can play first base, he's one of my top three favorite players ever. But he was probably one of the most unathletic fielders ever.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, catching wise, he was great, but if you look at him in the field, he's just an awkward dude. He's just
Yeah.
a big, lanky, awkward dude.
Well,
But
Polanco's leaving the Mariners. I don't mean to cut you off
and
there.
Polanco is not that guy. Polanco is very athletic. I
Hmm.
think that guy has 25 home run potential with
I
a
agree.
pretty good average, like about a 270 average, 25 home run guy. If you need a guy to fill into your first base, or like if you have a corner infield spot in your fantasy team, like we do
Hmm.
in one of ours, that's a really great solid player to
Yeah.
add into like your CI spot, or into like you said, into a platoon at first base
Hmm.
if your primary first baseman has bad splits
Yeah.
against like lefties or something,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
think a couple years ago he did hit 20 something home runs for in a very difficult park in Seattle.
Yeah,
So I mean, yeah, it's a good pick. I like it.
yeah. So all right, well, those are our picks.
Well, I do have a couple guys as like deeper
All
sleepers,
right,
that
give me
are
those
well
guys.
down the list. I like Alec Burleson. I think he continues to get
Mm.
a little bit better every year. Just kind
His
of
body
chipping
is
away
so
at it,
thick.
right?
I
But
just don't. There's something about I don't like about his body
well, I
in the
mean,
batter's box
he
specifically.
might not win a swimsuit competition for
He
you,
definitely won't.
but for me, he's just a
For
gamer.
you, he
He
will.
plays hard. No, if we're talking ball, he plays the game hard.
Yeah.
To me, he looks like his teammate there, his former teammate Brendan Donovan.
Hmm.
Those two have always impressed me. They just continue to get a little bit better every year.
Okay.
Opposite of what Jordan Walker does for the same team, gets worse every year and
Okay.
never finds his groove. I just feel like, as far as the on base skills, they continue to get a little bit better, batting average, a little bit better, pop, a little bit better, K to walk ratio, everything just kind of keeps creeping up. And
Yeah.
you know how like there's that certain threshold where you meet like Cal Garcia type player,
Hmm.
where you just get to a certain level. I think now he knows he's a hitter. Now he's like considered to be kind of a towards the middle of the lineup guy, unless you're talking about a special team.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's too big for him. I feel like he's going to take another step. And like we're talking fantasy, we're talking his spot in the lineup. It's not a great overall lineup. There's some good hitters I like,
It's
Ivan
true.
Herrera. But I feel like he's going to be in a great spot in that lineup every single game. I feel like he's going to give you 20 something home
I mean,
runs.
he's gonna have consistent at bats
Yeah,
for St. Louis
yeah.
in general. So I mean,
I just feel like he's an underrated player, and I feel
yeah.
like he's going to put
You
it a
had
little bit
somebody
more
else in your
together.
lineup besides him?
The other guy is a guy who was hot for a bit last year, who has some, had some hype on him before, and that's Andrew Vaughn. He also plays for a team that's a good team, a team that runs, a team that has good offense. They always count him out, but
He's just a
this team
bounce
always
around guy
plays
to me.
well.
He's just one of those guys that to me that like just bounces around the league
Well,
for
he
me.
bounced into Milwaukee last year and had a good season. I'm not sure what his overall numbers are, but I remember being very impressed by him last
Yeah.
year through stretches, and like his metrics support the improvement. It's not just like
Yeah.
a guy that was able to strap together like a good little run, or not even a guy who like has a certain tendency in his swing like a Paredes who just pulls the ball like crazy and has a formula to it.
Yeah.
He is an actual hitter. Like he actually is a good hitter who at one point had high prospect pedigree. Took him a while to get around. The game of baseball is very hard. He's not the focal point of the lineup, but he's going to hit around some of those big dogs in the lineup. And I just think he's, I feel like they have good hitting coaches there,
Hmm.
perhaps, because William Contreras was able to make himself into a good player.
Yeah.
They have other players who have
Yeah.
improved over there. Yelich has returned to form. I just think it's a good hitting squad. I like some of the stuff they had other young players last year.
Well, let me ask you about. All right, let me. I'm gonna ask you about one player before we go here.
Sure.
I'm gonna ask you one player, a guy that signed was a highly touted free agent last year, and he was you know I don't know if he's a Boris Klein or not, but teams were really going after him pretty hard for a bit, and then he just seemed like he fell off and just his career just died. And I know it's because of age, possibly, or maybe he just isn't that great. But Christian Walker,
Hmm.
in my opinion, it was he was one of the best first baseman free agents out there last year,
Hmm.
and we don't even talk about this guy anymore.
Yeah, I know. I feel like,
He had good numbers in Arizona. I know he had low batting average, but high like home runs. Like he was just
right.
a solid, a good replacement for Goldschmidt when Goldschmidt left
I
to
think
go to the Cardinals.
I think a lot of those underlying metrics are always a little bit lacking with Walker. Uh, but I think he was, one of those all or nothing players. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's, bounced back on some level this
Do
year.
you think that that contract is a bust
I'm not
for
really
Houston though?
looking to draft him.
I'm not looking to draft him either. Do you think that that contract's a bust though
I guess
for
depends on what he does
Houston?
this year, but I mean, I'm not really counting on it. So I
What did he
guess I
sign?
would
Like,
say
what did he sign? Like
yes.
a 4 year deal, the 3 4 year deal, 5 year
I'm not
deal?
sure. Not
I thought he
sure.
signed something like longer. The one guy I'm a little surprised that we didn't talk about was Sally Perez, only because I know he's like mainly a
First base
catcher.
eligible?
He's definitely first base eligible because he played. I would say not not half his games at first base, but he played a very healthy amount at first base. And I know
Yeah.
that he's primarily a catcher, but at age 36, they at some point they are going to start
Right.
transitioning him to first. I know they have Vinny Pasquantino, so
Right.
I get that, and I know Vinny for me was pretty high up on my list,
I've been kind of waiting for Sal Perez to fall off the last couple of
and
years, so
he,
it's
he
hard to
doesn't. He
count him
just
out. He
doesn't.
just keeps
He
going.
just
He
doesn't.
just gets that old man strength.
I mean, his batting average has been fairly low, and his power is still like prolific at
Him
this
not
point. Is
being
he a
on
Hall
our
of Famer in your
list,
eyes?
is he what?
Is he a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
I probably, because they did win a World Series.
Just offensively, though, like you think
Not
just
just
because of his
offensively.
offense?
I think because of his presence and his catching ability as well. And the fact that they won a World Series and he was like the face of that club.
Yeah,
So I would lean towards yes.
yeah.
And plus, look at what he's done these last few years.
Yeah.
It's almost like he reminds me of who's that catcher for the Cardinals? Who all of a sudden they thought he was just defensive and he became good, like a
Mhm.
good hitter. I forget his name.
Currently?
Before Ivan Herrera. Yeah, this is bad for radio and podcasts right now.
Yeah, whatever.
But either way, there's a catcher for the Cardinals who no one really thought he was going to be great, but then as a hitter, he
Mhm.
just kept on getting better.
Mhm.
Um, anyhow, I feel like he's another just really good hitter. He's a guy. The game's not too big for him. He's got confidence, galore.
Yeah.
So he swings it hard. He still looks formidable on that batter's box. I mean, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's got a good stance. He's got a good swing. If he gets a
Yeah.
hold of it, he barrels it up.
Yeah, and he's probably got like he looks like he swings a very heavy bat
Right.
to get all those home runs.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if there were more and more holes that show up in his swing as he gets older.
yeah, he's already what? He's gonna be going into his age 37 season coming up here.
Yeah,
Like
he's getting up
if
there.
listen, if those holes haven't shown up yet,
But they
they are
got to show
probably
up
gonna come up
sometime.
at
He
some
can't
point
play till
soon.
he's 40. Well,
Yeah.
maybe he can. I don't know.